Hi, welcome to Professor RJ Placone on Communication Excellence, my YouTube channel. I hope if you like these videos, you'll consider the free subscription. The last video I talked about was Donald Trump and the Awestruck Effect, and I want to follow up on this. And I want to look at another way to explain the phenomenon that is Donald Trump by talking about his indirect communication style. So, like most of us, Donald Trump's full of communication contradictions. In many ways, he's very direct. He will use what linguists call boosters to really boost one's certainty in what they're asserting. He will say things like, "We can certainly do this. We'll definitely do this. Certainly and definitely are boosters, adding weight to the conviction." And if you remember, prior to taking office after the election, he was talking about what he not only would do, but what he would do on day one. Again, that's a form of booster. But he's also one that's prone to hedges. Like most politicians, Biden used a lot of hedges, for instance, especially in his debates. Medical professionals, uh, academics. So we hedge a bit. We don't like to speak in absolutes or with 100% certainty. And I think when you look at hedges, this is one area of his indirect communication style that is worth exploring. Just take note of the number of times he uses the words probably, maybe, I think, I could change my mind. He uses these types of words all the time. Now, what that does, this use of hedges, it leads to some degree of ambiguity. You're wondering, okay, where exactly does he stand? It gives him an out. And I think why I want to focus on this indirect style is I think it tells us about who he is as a leader. He doesn't like to be pinned down, and he wants to leave options open for himself. He wants to create options. So when you use these hedging words, sort of, kind of, it suggests that there may be a crack in the thinking. One might be open to another perspective, that it's not cast in stone. But again, with the ambiguity can come some confusion, and I think that's part of what we've experienced with the tariffs. People not sure when they would take effect, to what degree, and we've seen the shifting timetables. Again, hedges are very useful. Many folks do it, but I think we have to at least be on guard when they are being used and try to form a more complete understanding of what exactly is being said. And that leads me to the second area of his indirect communication that I would like to talk about. If you go back to the ancient Romans and rhetoricians like Cicero, they would call this insinuatio or insinuation. So frequently, Donald Trump cast himself as a reporter, and he's just reporting what other people are saying or what other people are want. Certainly, his most common phrase that we see is being used extensively now is "many people are saying," and many people are saying that I should consider running again in 2028. Sometimes he attaches this move to a group. He sent out the one tweet where he was saying that the Washington Commander football team should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins. And one of the reasons for that was, he said, our great Indian people in large numbers want this. And then sometimes he'll attach to a person, most recently talking about Putin and some of the conversations he had with him regarding free elections, saying, well, talking about the one election 2020 was rigged, well, because you had mail-in ballots. And he said you cannot have free elections when you have mail-in ballots. So Trump is using others to put forth the argument that he probably strongly believes in. His indirect style is leading people toward the conclusion he wants without putting himself necessarily out there front and center. Now, what can you do about a leader when they're using this more subtle indirect style? I can remember many years ago as a young college student, one of my great professors, Robert P. Newman, he wrote a book on evidence in the late 1960s, which was just an unbelievable book. Basically, he said we're all biased, every source is biased, and the real challenge is to try to obtain information from multiple sources. He looked at me one day and he said, you know what? If you're reading the National Review, you better read the Progressive or the New Republic. And that has stuck with me. So I think when we hear these generalized types of arguments and we don't want to just settle for, well, everybody knows this is true. Maybe everybody doesn't know it's true. Maybe we can put a little more of the research burden on ourselves and apply what in legal terms they call, the reasonable person test. If we're the recipient of a certain kind of indirect communication, we say, okay, would a reasonable person, relatively free of bias, find this convincing? Trying to strip your bias away and try to put yourself in a more objective mindset. And if you conclude that that reasonable person would not find the argument convincing, too general, then I think you owe it to yourself to do your own research and to do it by looking at multiple sources of information. Don't just go into your own echo chamber. Try to find information from sources that you wouldn't regularly go to. Therefore, you can sort of package it all together and draw your own conclusion. I think that's the best way to deal with an indirect style of communication. I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to doing more. Thank you so much.